Did you know that you could sponsor Nerd and Tie? That's right, for just $20 an episode, we'd read your name here and say what a great human being you are for paying us money. In fact, giving us money makes you a better human being every single day. Just go to nerdandtie.com and click on sponsor in the right sidebar or in the top bar. Really, anywhere that it says sponsor. If you're unaware of what that word means, we're willing to explain it to you later. On this episode of Nerd and Tie, MRAs have been booted from Calgary Expo, Syfy is ditching wrestling, Wonder Woman is changing directors, Batman vs. Superman's got a trailer, Ant-Man's got a trailer, Star Wars has a trailer, I went to the INDYpendent Show, and Nick, Pher, and I are going to No Brand Con. It's very, 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 very exciting.
I'm excited.
And welcome to Nerd and Tie.
Welcome.
Those of you watching the video might notice that somebody's missing, and that is Pher. I am Trae Dorn, and with me, thankfully on camera, is Nick Izumi.
You can actually see the creepy basement this week.
Yeah, so it's
so creepy.
So we lost Pher for today, but we got Nick on camera, so that at least is something. Because
that's what it takes to get me on camera. You got to puke into a bucket.
Yeah, no, it's so Pher is sick. He is vomiting. And so the great thing is that for those wondering is that Nick connects on an iPad. iPads do not support group chat, but they support one-on-one chat with videos. So normally we have to have him on audio. So, as we do. But, if you want Nick to be on video all the time, like every episode, there's a campaign to help him do that.
This is true. Raina and I have a GoFundMe campaign going on right now to get us a new art project computer.
Yes. And
I'll post links to that on the Nerd and Tie page. We're very close. That way you can see me every week. If you're following any of Raina's art.
Every fortnight.
Well, yeah, you could probably watch the old episodes every week if you really need to.
That's
Some
true.
people need their Nerd and Tie fix.
I think that's absolutely true.
It is going to be the art processing PC that we've always wanted and needed. Raina's art will improve, my videos will improve, and you'll actually see me every fortnight. So please support us.
Please support them. We will put a link to the GoFundMe campaign in the show notes for the episode. So if you go to nerdandtie.com and go to the episode, whatever current number we're on, it'll be in the show notes. Whatever you're listening, if you're listening to this episode, you know what episode number it is. So you're either on the website and can click on it right now, or you're using a device and we're telling you what the number is in the title of the episode. Right? That made sense.
That mostly made. We'll go with that.
Well, it's been a busy fortnight.
It has. It really has.
And
there's been some good news.
We had to pare down the news quite a bit. Like I seriously had to pare down the news quite a bit to come up with what we're doing this episode. But our top story is Pher pointed out that it was his favorite story of the fortnight, and he wanted us to be very clear about that. And it's this weekend was the Calgary Expo in Calgary, Alberta. That's in Canada, which exists.
I'm coming to terms with that.
Nick is coming to terms with that.
I'm slowly coming to terms with it.
Yeah, well,
I guess. If I have to.
Well, okay, so at the Expo this weekend, the Calgary Expo, like many conventions, has a rather firm anti-harassment policy and a safe space policy, which is becoming more and more common in conventions and events. Well,
because they're run by decent people.
Yes. Because most conventions are run by good people. Well, the Calgary Expo was forced to ask a group of exhibitors to leave a particular table, which was reserved by the Honey Badgers. Now, if you are unaware of what the Honey Badgers are, they are a mostly women group of men's rights activists closely associated with hate site A Voice for Men.
Yay.
Yeah. So, at the table, besides having massive Gamergate merchandise, which is, by the way, a harassing movement that is like literally, it's a campaign built on harassment.
Yeah,
besides
there's no
that,
ifs, ands, or buts around it.
not even including that, they were showing up. There are reports, according to the Mary Sue, of members of their group showing up to feminist panels and intentionally disrupting them on Thursday night because it's a 4-day convention. Between the harassment policies violated and the safe space policies, the Honey Badgers were booted Friday morning before the convention reopened for its second day.
God, I can't imagine why.
Because the Calgary Expo people are awesome. And
yeah, props to them.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, hooray. Now, the interesting thing is one of the other reasons that they were booted was because they came in under false pretenses. They reserved the site not claiming to be the MRA group that their name is. I mean, they are. They're a bunch of jerkbags. They came in using the URL of one of their members' webcomics. So they made it look like the entire thing was to support a webcomic and then proceeded to fill the booth with the Gamergate merchandise instead.
That's really skeezy. Like, that's beyond
And guess
skeezy.
what? As I could say as a former con director, if an artist came to me and applied for an artist alley table or an exhibitor table under false pretenses and put out something completely different than what they claimed they were applying for, even if it wasn't like Gamergate stuff, you're booted, you're gone.
Right. Because that's just BS. Oh my God.
Because artist alleys have very strict criteria. And if you're intentionally misleading as an exhibitor, if you're intentionally misleading a convention about what you're going to sell, you're going to get kicked. Period.
Yeah, that's just logical. That's just how it goes. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not sorry, though, because these guys suck.
Yeah. So the best part is that since they got booted, over the course of the weekend, the Honey Badgers put out 4.5 hours of video on YouTube complaining about it. WeHuntedTheMammoth.com did the math and and counted, like, it's only like 5 videos. Two of them are like over an hour long of them but no, they claim other people are being professional victims. These are people who literally went knowing they would get booted. There's no way they didn't know they were going to get booted, and are using this effectively. What the whole point of this is that they wanted to get kicked out, or else they wouldn't have disrupted the panel. They wanted to get kicked out so they could point out how other people were oppressing them to raise money, because the Voice for Men's entire thing is they raise money like crazy. So effectively, the same people who claim other people are professional victims, other people who, by the way, create real original content and only charge money for that content, those same people just went to get themselves kicked out to raise money, which means they'd be getting paid for being a victim. And let's just tell you that these people who call other people this are literally professional victims.
I mean, they set it up. It's just one big stupid setup.
Yeah.
Every time I find out more about men's rights activists, it continues to just piss me off more and more and more, and I don't understand why this is still a thing.
Because little hateable people found each other on the internet, and now they're coming to our frickin' conventions.
Well, it was last year after we did the recap episode, I was talking to Archimize, and he was saying, it was a good episode, but you guys really should have called Gamergate the biggest fail of 2014.
Yeah, no, you know what it is? The problem is that I just honestly, most of the time, don't want to think about Gamergate.
Same. I don't, I try to forget it exists.
I shouldn't. I guess it's kind of a privilege that I don't have to think about it all the time.
Right.
But, it's... actually, we probably should have called it out. We should have called it out. I'm actually, right now, officially apologizing that we didn't call out Gamergate's pile of crap as the worst thing of last year, because it was.
No, and I'm amazed that this is still going. I'm amazed that there are people who really think this way.
Yeah. So, but the good news is that that the Calgary Expo kicked them out. They booted them, as they should, and as any good convention should.
And we have a precedent for it, and I think I've heard little rumblings. I still have connections at some cons where they've been using that as an example of things to look out for, to, preemptively plan for it. And, we should continue to plan to, if these guys show up, we don't let them into our space, because they make it
unsafe.
Yeah, they make it unsafe. They make it an unwelcoming space. And the entire point of why conventions got set up in the first place was so we could welcome all sorts of nerds from different walks of life together.
Exactly. Gamergate has the Gamergate movement and men's rights activists, and I'm lumping all this together because guess what? The men's rights activists jumped on Gamergate's side. This is when I talk about men's rights, honey badgers are literally men's rights activists. I know that most of them are women. Most of them in the honey badger group are women. I think it used to be. I think there's one or two guys, but it's almost. But they are men's rights activists. So when those are literally, they are associated with A Voice for Men, which is the biggest MRA website on the whole of the internet. There is literally no larger. I mean, unless you count Reddit. No,
I followed We Hunted the Mammoth links to check out that site just one time, and it's really gross.
Oh God, don't actually
go there. It is one of the
there.
grossest sites.
You will feel ill. You will feel ill because you have a soul.
No, it's we should move on to happier things.
We should, Nick.
Because there are happier things.
Move us on to happier things, Nick.
So good old Syfy channel, who have with their strangely spelled name and their weird choices as of late. As you might remember, we were talking about how a while back how they were saying maybe it was a mistake to ditch so much of our actual sci-fi broadcasting. Well, they're kind of putting their money where their mouth is. Wrestling will no longer be featured on the Syfy channel. So, yay! I guess. I mean, I'm not a big wrestling fan. I know people who are. If you are, great for you. But it doesn't have anything to do with sci-fi. I think this is a step forward for them.
Yeah,
I want to see more original programming, and I know you posted some trailers for some new stuff they're doing. So
I posted a new trailer for Dark Matter, which is John Malozzi's new show. He's one of the writer, it's a bunch of the guys who worked on the Stargate shows, and doing the writing, and it looks really interesting. It's about a group of people who wake up on a ship with no memory about how they got there. But it's been a whole movement with more serious science fiction programming. When you look at 12 Monkeys, which just wrapped its first season, Helix is a weird show, but at least within the vein of sci-fi.
Which
also just wrapped its second season.
The wrestling thing, it was a very jarring. It just didn't fit. I mean, I understand NBC needed somewhere to slot their wrestling, but
they didn't want to put it all on one network, and they needed to put SmackDown on the air. So they put it on Syfy, and it's funny because this is all being promoted as Syfy, as NBC Universal consolidating wrestling all into one channel. Actually, it's because they're moving it to USA, which is also where Monday Night Raw's been on USA for forever.
Yeah,
since back when I was a kid watching wrestling, because I'm not critical of people who like wrestling. I like lots of things that other people aren't into. Also, I just feel that wrestling had no place on Syfy channel.
It had nothing to do with anything. Yeah. I've never been a fan myself, but I have a lot of friends who are into it. I get the appeal.
Well, I know a lot of our listeners are into it. Mm-hmm. I haven't watched it since I was a kid. I remember when the Steiner brothers beat Money Inc. in a steel cage match, but that's how far back you have to go for me to know what the heck you're talking about.
I watched the Mark remark, if that makes up for anything. That's Martin Binney, aka Little Karibo's wrestling show. That's hilarious. But yeah,
it's so. So I guess the point is that happily it's moving off, and so it's Syfy's really been like, I mean, besides the fact that I think they're working on a John Scalzi series based on I think Ghost Brigades. They're like Old Man's War is the first book in that series, but I think they're calling it Ghost Brigades after the second book because it's a better title. Well,
I'm glad though. I really think that I'm glad that Syfy is realizing that they should be a flagship channel for now that kind of the nerds are in charge of entertainment right now. Why not?
Well, and also
step it up.
Defiance comes back for its third season the same night as Dark Matter, and so it is literally being touted as the return to Sci-Fi Friday, which was the programming block, which if you go back into the history of Sci-Fi Channel, was where Farscape lived, it's where Invisible Man lived, it's where the Chronicle lived, it's where the Stargates lived when they were on the network. It was really the home to kind of their core. I mean, it's where Battlestar Galactica lived.
Right, I remember that. That was the one Sci-Fi Friday thing I kept up with.
It's like I watched all these shows, and so I'm never gonna, people like to criticize like they like to correlate it with the name change to Sci-Fi, the SYFY, but that's just really coincidence. The only reason they changed their name is because they couldn't trademark Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, we mentioned that on the show before, and
it's because they can trademark SYFY.
It's annoying, but it makes sense.
But it makes sense business wise. So that's
more power to them. I'm glad that they're kind of going back to their roots. I'll probably check out Dark Matter. Looks really cool.
Yeah, Dark Matter actually looks really cool. Joe Malozzi's a mixed bag for whether or not shows are good.
True. Very true.
But also a lot of the crew working on it are the crew from Lost Girl. Because Lost Girl, while it hasn't aired the second half of the final season yet, wrapped it back in October. So
okay.
Yeah, it's so no one's making Lost Girl anymore. Like a whole season's worth of episodes haven't aired yet, but
oh dear. Oh well.
But okay, so but speaking of welcome changes, well, maybe not welcome, but changes.
This might not be welcome. This is weird changes.
Well, okay, so this is now some of you know that with the Wonder Woman movie, Michelle MacLaren was attached to direct, but things were looking shaky. Like while we were still hearing things about it going into production, like come the fall, we weren't really getting any. Michelle MacLaren, the director, was acting like it wasn't even greenlit. Well, things came to a head earlier this week when Michelle MacLaren announced that she was off the project and she had left due to creative differences. Not 2 days passed, and Warner Brothers announced that they have a new director for Wonder Woman.
Bisky.
And that is Patty Jenkins, which is nice that they're going with another woman. I'm glad they're sticking with the idea that they want a woman director.
I'm glad about that.
But Patty Jenkins, who originally was the slotted director for Thor 2.
I remember that,
before she was replaced because she left because of creative differences with Marvel. So the woman originally going to be Marvel's first female director is now going to be DC's first female director instead. Yeah, it's Patty Jenkins she directed Monster, which starred Charlize Theron, which Charlize Theron won an Oscar for, and she did a lot of work on the TV series The Killing.
So she has a stupid good track record, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, no. So she's a very solid director, and honestly, Michelle MacLaren hadn't really ever directed a feature before, so she actually may be a stronger choice.
Yeah, well, I'm optimistic-ish. I mean,
yeah. So that's exciting. I'm excited. I think she's if you need to change directors, she's a good choice to a new one. Mind you, we still don't know how concrete when the filming's going to start and all of that fun stuff.
And we still need to find out more about DC's cinematic universe, whatever it composes.
Yeah, it's honestly with the 2017 plan. I don't know. I'm worried about some of this stuff. I'm going to admit it's the DC carnival of sadness. As it's
well, you go back to. It's a lot like an analogy I heard for when PlayStation decided to do their own like Super Smash Brothers thing. It's like showing up ready for a fight, and the winner has already been decided, and everyone has gone home. Like, because that's what the DC Cinematic Universe feels like right now. It's like we've introduced Superman. No one really liked it, but we're gonna keep going with it.
Well, to be fair, Man of Steel made money. In the world of movies, nothing is more important than money.
Right.
Sequels come about not because the first movie was good, not because the first movie was watchable, but because the first movie made money. Do you know how I know this?
Because there are 4 Transformers movies.
Because last night I watched Paul Blart Mall Cop 2.
Jesus. Why did you do that?
Because it was either that or Fast and Furious 7.
I don't...
And I've already seen Fast and Furious 7.
I think I would have gone to Fast and Furious. Oh, okay, well...
So...
Speaking of terrible...
I went to the drive-in. For people who don't know, people who listen to this for the first time, my wife and I like to go to the drive-in on Saturday nights, and sometimes you got to watch the movie that's showing, because frankly, the funnel cake is too good, and it's nice to sit outside for a beautiful evening. And honestly, you know what? Like, beautiful open skies, the stars, and funnel cake, and a warm summer breeze, that makes a Paul Blart movie watchable.
See, terrible sequels. I was at the video store the other day, and I saw Dragonheart 3 as a thing, and that made me want to give up hope on just
That is
everything.
Terrifying. Who thought that was a good idea?
I don't know. Dragonheart 2 was awful. And I don't think anyone saw that either. That was also straight to video. So I want to know what inspired anyone to make Dragonheart 3.
I didn't know there was a Dragonheart 2 until you just said that.
Yeah, it was a straight to video movie that came out in like probably around 2003 or so. I don't even remember. It was terrible, though.
Just remember, they made a second Blood Rain movie.
That's true. I keep forgetting that that's a thing. I kind of don't like remembering that the first one was a thing.
I'm convinced that Uwe Boll has like a Bialystok and Bloom level scheme going on with any of his movies.
The thing is, though, with his movies, how to have fun with them. Rent, watch them, get the DVD, though, and put on his commentary track. The Uwe Boll commentary track for any of his movies is amazing. I remember one of my friends and I used to just rent them and watch. We wouldn't even watch the movie. We'd just watch the commentary track. And
I just put up I put up your still image lower third instead of the video you out of habit. I was like, let's put the camera on Nick. Audio listeners are, of course, not noticing anything, but I went to go put the camera on you, and I accidentally clicked the photo of you with your hands up in the air with the giant grin.
Huzzah! I love that picture.
Sorry, I apologize for interrupting you, Nick.
No, it's all good. But like Uwe Boll, his commentary tracks are amazing because he will go anywhere from complaining that the actresses will refuse to be topless for his movies to suddenly stopping the commentary track entirely while it's recording and saying that he got a call from Christian Slater and just takes the call while it's recording.
That would only be cool if you put him on speaker the way that I've seen other people do.
No, he doesn't do that. He just has the conversation with the guy while the movie keeps
That makes me believe he didn't call.
Oh my
Uwe Boll's trying to impress us.
Probably. I wouldn't be so... if he's trying to... Whatever.
Uwe Boll's a piece of crap. No one likes Uwe Boll. Uwe Boll's mother won't answer his phone calls.
I wouldn't if I was his mom.
If you were Uwe Boll's mom, I would be terrified because the physics behind that would be just mind-boggling. I mean, seriously.
The fact that I'm probably at least 2 or 3 decades younger and male and not in any of the European nations he's lived in? Like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's mostly the male part, or I should say the biologically male and lacking a uterus.
Yeah.
And if you had a uterus, I'd then be asking, as you lack the other lady parts, from what I've been told.
Generally.
That
I think.
What you birthed him through.
Just nope, don't have them. No.
If you think that Nick has lady parts, or if Nick should get lady parts, go to nerdandtie.com and click on the contact form. This is what happened when Pher's not here. This is what happens when Pher's not here. There is nothing to Pher tempers me.
The funny thing is that if I was just still images, that would have been the perfect time to pull up any of the images of when I've cross-dressed. Really, any of them. But we can. It's inappropriate.
Well, I can. There's Nick as Constantine. That's cross-dressing. No, I'm kidding.
What?
There's Nick in a dress. All the video viewers are getting to see Nick in a dress.
I don't know which one it is, but it's probably cute. All right. Moving forward.
Let's get that off screen only because it's a distraction.
All right, moving forward, and kind of apropos of this Wonder Woman directorial change, we had a lot of trailers this week.
Oh my God!
Bisky, did we have trailers this week? Now we're gonna wait to talk about Star Wars because one of you lovely people mentioned it in your viewer mail to us, which we appreciate.
We were gonna make that sound spontaneous.
Oh, well, too bad.
We're gonna be like, oh yeah, we forgot to talk about Star Wars. Boop-de-doop-de-doo.
I like seeming like I'm in control of the situation. I'm always in control.
No one's in control.
I'm not actually in control of anything.
I'm technically kind of in control of a couple of things.
I play video games and I control my character. No. Anyway, but no, we had a couple of
hands.
Oh my. But it's funny that we mentioned Wonder Woman because Wonder Woman was notably absent from the first actual trailer for Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Dawn of Justice. Which
actually leaked before it was supposed to come out the Monday after when we were recording this, so the 20th of April. But it leaked online,
shaky cam style.
All shaky cam style with little subtitles.
Well, because it was recorded in I don't know where it was recorded. I think it was Portuguese that the subtitles were in?
they were like Portuguese subtitles.
So it must have been either Brazil or Portugal. That was my guess. But I want to point out one thing from that shaky cam version. You know what the title in that country was?
I noticed there's an
S in that verses. So at least someone else besides us thinks that the V is stupid. At least someone who works for Warner Brothers thinks the V is stupid.
It doesn't look like the courtroom drama that I know listeners like Arkham Eyes were hoping for. But yeah, I know it's a dumb. Although the entire first half of the Batman v Superman trailer, all I could think of, going through my head the entire time was just, I am Jesus! It was as if all of the critiques about, wow, you think we were a little ham-fisted with the Superman as Jesus things in the first movie? Nah, we better dial it up just in case, because Zack Snyder is so subtle. Well, he can't...
Yeah.
He's gotta up the Jesus imagery and even have a statue of Superman with false God written across it.
I just want to know how people elevated him to godhood status in the first place, because I understand the hatred. That guy that trashed Metropolis. Boom. He didn't save anybody in that movie. He just let people die all over the place in that battle.
Well, it's even funnier because I was just watching Justice League Unlimited yesterday, and there's an episode where Superman gets into a fight with Captain Marvel, and he's smashing up a city. And in the context of that show, that's supposed to be your sign that Superman is out of control and should not be cheered for right now.
Yeah. God, the whole thing's just so stupid.
some of it was even almost shot for shot things from Man of Steel. And in that's supposed to be our sign we don't cheer for Superman right now. But whatever. No one knows.
Man of Steel is called what happens when Batman fans who hate Superman write Superman.
Mm-hmm. And we get more of that because we got to get the real hero up in here, because Batman is, of course, the superior character, what with his being just a regular person, a regular unpowered human who just happens to have more money than anyone will ever be able to hope.
Yeah. So I will say that, the Batman and Batman versus Superman is proof that we continue to have generations of writers that worship The Dark Knight Returns.
Which sucks. I'm sorry.
I disagree.
No, I'm saying it sucks that's their standard.
Right, yes.
The original comic has a lot of value.
And we just pretend the sequel never happened.
Mm-hmm, yeah, there's a lot of good things about it. The straight-to-video animated movie was also very good. There are good... Dark Knight Returns is a great comic. You should read it.
But it is not the only valid interpretation of Batman. It's not.
And it's certainly not the only valid interpretation of Superman.
Oh, God, yeah. It's not Frank Miller. But okay, so... but it is a valid interpretation, which is why I didn't mind any of the Batman. And I'm like, it's the DKR costume. It's the, oh my God, it is the DKR showdown in, powered suit Batman versus Superman. Like, the shots are even similar. So
honestly, if there's one thing I'm going to cheer, it is that costume, because holy crap, it's perfect. It is the best Batman costume we've ever had in one of these movies, because it looks just like the comic. It looks exactly like the comic.
It does, which is why what I'm going to say is that I think Batman vs. Superman is going to be a good Batman movie and a horrible Superman movie.
That's kind of the
unfortunately, when the Superman is 50% of your film, we all know that even if you get 100% on 50% of the test, it's a 50% grade, my friend, and 50% that's an F.
And I am going to admit, I'm really disappointed that they've done all this talk about Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, and we didn't see any of her.
Well, she's barely going to be in the film. Let's be clear. Gal Gadot is going to barely be in Batman vs. Superman. That's...
I'm sure it's the same with Jason Momoa.
Her creation was barely listed. I think she's going to be at the same level as all the other cameos that they're tossing into this thing. But they made a big deal out of it because it is the first official cinematic representation of the character. And sure, Jason Momoa is the first official cinematic representation of Aquaman. But honest to God, while I think he's going to be an awesome Aquaman, most people don't give a crap about Aquaman.
Right.
Wonder Woman is an icon. She's part of DC. DC literally calls her part of the Trinity of her. Batman and Superman are their three biggest, most important characters. Like, those are the three characters that DC puts up on the wall of their office and says, these are our, primary characters. And these are our best and greatest. And so it's amazing that she's just getting a little tiny part. But there's no way that she's bigger than that, or else they'd have to credit more stuff than they did in the poster.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be I'm still going to see it, but it's already reeking of Snyderisms.
Yeah, we're going to all see it, and then we're going to do an episode probably about it, a special discussing it, and we're going to talk about everything being wrong with Superman and everything being right with Batfleck, and then Pher's going to do a joke in a bad Boston accent referencing Good Will Hunting, which wasn't that good a movie to start with, even though Ben Affleck won an Oscar for co-writing it.
What I will say...
Why does Ben Affleck get an Oscar? I mean, well, admittedly, actually, he's not a terrible writer, but the dialogue in Good Will Hunting's good. The story's kind of awful.
I've never seen it.
Well, mostly the Ben Affleck is just really a shitty friend.
Okay.
Well, okay, so the premise of the film is, of course, that Matt Damon is, like, super genius, right? Whatever.
Right.
But there's a scene where Ben Affleck, who plays his best friend, who's working with him as, like, I don't remember if they're roofers or construction or whatever, blue-collar job, tells him that every day when he comes to the door to pick him up, he hopes he won't be there.
Oh.
because he's hoping that he goes and moves on to something else. But what kind of shitty friend tells their friend, "Oh, I hope you don't show up ever again. I hope I never see you again. Ever. I hate seeing you every day." Also, it's kind of demeaning against people who work blue-collar work, because just because you work it doesn't mean you're not smart. It means maybe you just maybe that's the job you could get.
Hey, I know that feeling really well right now.
Yeah.
I hate my job.
I hope to see you every day, Nick. No, actually, well, the only reason I don't is because you don't live anywhere near me, so it'd be really weird. Because if I woke up one day and you were just in my apartment, it would scare the shit out of me. Because I'd be wondering how you got in.
Add that to my bucket list. Just let me
have to shrink down and go under something.
Ooh, shrinking. That's it. What a fantastic transition. Segway. Just like Dean Kamen riding his Segway, let's look over at the other
or Paul Blart.
Or no, not like Paul Blart. Gosh dang it. No. Anyway, we got the other big superhero movie that we have a trailer for. It was Ant-Man. Marvel's finally got him out in the forefront. Ant-Man, a full-length trailer. And the little teaser we got made Ant-Man look funny. And this new trailer makes me think, this is still going to be a really funny movie. I am dead set for a really funny action movie.
Yeah.
Wow. It looks fun. It looks very fun. Marvel is.
I'm particularly fond of the Thomas the Tank Engine scene.
Yeah. I mean, it is the best undercutting of how scary and awesome your supervillain looks ever. To have him oh my god, it's a train, and it's a Thomas the Tank Engine.
Right, because it's still just the toy, and they have the appropriate, the pin particles only make them lighter. They still have the same mass, so
right.
They're not going to get hurt by a hollow plastic toy.
Yeah, that was really funny.
Yeah, that was good. I like the way it just falls off.
You know what I was reminded of, though, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but the whole guy who can shrink thing, some people might be having trouble imagining how would you do that? How does that make for a good action movie? But what it reminded me of was back in the 60s, Filmation. Yes, the Filmation that did He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, and also the Star Trek animated series, did a series of shorts about the Atom. And they did a number of other DC superheroes while they were at it, but their ones for the Atom were legitimately good. The animation was interesting, and they did really creative stuff with the shrinking, and it was cool to see that live action. It's oh, wow. That's
because the Atom's got a lot of the same powers as Ant-Man, only he can't talk to ants, which is why he's inferior.
I can go with that.
Although he is Brendan Ruth in the Arrowverse, which
but in
points.
The Arrowverse, he's TV budget Iron Man in the Arrowverse. Though.
Well, he's gonna become the Atom eventually. But I loved the fact every time he went into the previous episode of The Flash, the All-Star Team Up episode, where his
romance with Cisco.
Well, no, occasionally when he was flying, you put his arms in the Superman flying position.
The Flash episode with Brandon Routh was amazing because they kept making Superman references. Even in his first appearance, you have Cisco and Caitlin. Look up in the sky. It's a bird. No, it's a plane.
It's a plane.
Hi, guys. I'm Ray.
Oh my god. You know what? The Arrowverse reminds me every day that how much better the Superman Returns is than Man of Steel.
Yeah, you have Brandon Routh there. I'm so glad that whatever their bizarre series they're working on with him is going to be, I'm really glad that they're working on something to put him in the forefront because he's so charismatic and he's so good. And he was a fantastic Superman, but he's a great at playing
He was a great
heroes.
Superman. He was a great antagonist on Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
Hero turned antagonist. Spoilers. On Chuck, and he's a He was a great Superman. His movie wasn't perfect. His movie had a lot of flaws, and I'm not going to claim that Superman Returns is a better movie than it is, but I will say it's a better movie and a better Superman than Man of Steel.
I'm actually, Superman Returns is still my favorite Superman movie. I have no issue saying that. I'm probably going to do a video about it in the near future.
You know what? Honestly, I don't like it as much, but to be fair, I'm not hugely behind most of the Superman. Like the Chris Reeves movies, I have a place in my heart because I was a kid when I watched them.
Right.
But as I look back on them as an adult,
Superman 77 has some awful pacing issues. It's way too long.
Well, and the turning back time plot resolution is dumb.
Which was forced on them by the studio, though. Because that wasn't the original ending. That was supposed to be the ending of Superman 2. And the studio liked the turning back time thing and wanted to do it with the first movie.
Yeah.
And then you have the joke that has not aged well at all, which is the Superman gets the kitten out of a tree for a little kid, and she goes in and she's like, "Mom, guess what happened?" And the mom's like, "What did I tell you about lying?" And you hear the kid get beat off screen, and you're like, at least I was like,
oh my God, I forgot about that.
Yeah, every time I watch that movie, that ruins the experience for me. Because Christopher Reeve is perfect. And Gene Hackman is perfect. And then you have that scene with the child beating, and I'm just like, yeah, no. But going back to Ant-Man, I'm excited.
Ant-Man. That thing
cats,
this is the problem without having Pher. Pher tells us to get back on track.
Mm-hmm. Holy cats, though. Ant-Man. Another thing that I want to rave up. I love the costumes. I love the Ant-Man suit. I love the yellow jacket suit.
You love the costumes.
I really do. And I get a kick out. I really enjoyed watching Scott Lang not know how to fight and get punched repeatedly. That was adorable. I mean, he is just so bad at this, and I can't wait to find out how he gets good at this. It really looks fun. I'm excited for this.
I'm excited that you're excited, Nick.
Habisky. I have to stop saying that. That's not even originally my phrase. But yeah.
Crap damn.
Crap damn. That is my phrase. I love it. No. So we've got two things that I'm looking forward to Ant-Man, and I'm scared for Batman v Superman, but I'm basically the same spot I was in before.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I've just seen more footage from it.
Having seen more footage, I think our opinion of Batman versus Superman is, oh, look, it's the movie we expected them to make. Zack Snyder, you're still awful.
The cinematography looks more interesting than Man of Steel. That's the only other good thing I can say.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
Man of Steel was a boring movie.
Zack Snyder's cinematography usually is actually, he can be quite good at cinematography. Like, you know what the one thing not wrong with Watchmen was? The look. It looks beautiful. It was...
Yeah, he superficially captured the comic perfectly. Thematically, I don't think he did, but superficially, perfect. That's actually one of the biggest upsets with Man of Steel is that you have someone who's the only thing Zack Snyder's good at is visuals.
You have one job, Zack Snyder. One job.
The only thing he's good at is visuals, and they had him tone back the visuals. What? All right.
But tell us how you really feel, Nick.
We need to move on to the con scene.
Let's go to the con scene. You know what I did today, Nick?
What'd you do?
I went to a convention.
Oh, fun.
That's right. I tabled at a convention. I was at the INDYpendent Show in Indianapolis. This year, this is technically their third show. It's their second year, though. Last year they did a spring show and a fall show, and they're doing that again this year. The Spring INDYpendent Show for 2015, which is the independent small publisher and independent press expo. So it's I went to the INDYpendent Show. It was at the Wyndham West. This year, for the spring show, they merged it with HoosierCon, which is spelled Who's, like Who '*S, YER Con, because we're funny. We're Indiana.
Okay.
Good, well, because Hoosier.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyways, HoosierCon is a free gaming convention, which, you know, it draws a decent turnout. I think their attendance numbers were about 1,500 this year. You know, free event, fun, nice people. The Independent Show was in the side room this year, just Sunday only, because it's normally a one-day convention on its own, so it only held for one day of HoosierCon. And it was myself and 29 other artists, I think, and writers who were in a little side room. And it was a lot of fun. HoosierCon's a pretty cool convention, especially, considering they actually offer a really comprehensive convention for free. Like, it's a 3-day convention in a hotel that it costs $0, that you can choose to pay money.
Right.
To pay $25 to be a member of the organization for a year, but you can attend the con for nothing. So,
okay, neat.
Yeah, and it's vendors. It's got programming. It's got an Artemis bridge, because this is 2015 and everybody's got an Artemis bridge. It was a lot of fun. The guy John Graham, who organizes it, just does a great little job putting it together, and I had a lot of fun and discovered I have a lot of readers for Unconventional on the HoosierCon staff, which was unbeknownst to me. Apparently, they were very excited I was there.
Well, that's neat.
Yeah. I was talking to John Graham, and apparently one of them said, how did you get Trae Dorn there? And he looked at them funny, apparently, and said, well, he paid me money. And
Nice.
Because while it is true that I am often, not often, I am occasionally a guest at a convention, I more than often, like most webcomic artists, even the big names, still pay for most of my tables.
Yeah.
There are people way more famous than me who still pay for most of their tables. So, yeah.
That's the thing about being a D-list internet celebrity. Like, you are you are the kind of cheap date that it's usually in the negatives of how much the con actually.
Oh, that's not true.
That's
not true.
No, I'm saying it's very rare that I have.
Well, because we've both been guests at conventions. You've got an animecons.com.
Yeah, I have an entry. I didn't make it. I don't know who made that.
Well, it's anytime you listed as a guest at a listed convention. It's like, I've been guests at conventions, but none of them were ever listed in animecons.com. Like, AnomalyCon wasn't listed there.
I'm just curious who made, because there's it was like this comprehensive page before I got there. I added some stuff to my bio, but that was it. Like, someone else, actually cared enough. And I mean, I am a dirt cheap date. Like, you buy me a pizza, and if you're far enough away, give me a hotel room and I'll show up. That's it.
Pretty much for most of us. Mm-hmm. I mean, just pay for my hotel room and my travel costs, and I'm your friend.
Pretty much.
Forever.
We're really, hey.
But honestly, even secret, okay, so people, this may sound silly, but that's honestly what most people who are guests at conventions get. And then the bigger names get appearance fees. That's literally it. True. It's travel, housing, appearance fees.
But it's lots of fun, and I'm glad that things worked out for you there. That sounds like a good.
No, it's really good fun. Honestly, it's the Independent Show is run by this guy John Graham, and he's got It's really fascinating because the show is entirely the independent stuff is all geared towards independent comic creators and original creators. It's most of us who do comics and work, we are usually competing for space in artist alleys that are full of people doing fan art, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's really hard for us to compete against that because people are always going to gravitate towards the familiar. So my fans will go find me. It's I had a bunch of people come up to me at the convention this weekend and say I love the Chronicles of Crowsarth, blah 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 blah. I love Unconventional, blah blah blah, and those people are awesome, and I love you, and thank you. Even more so if you bought things from me, but just frankly, I love you. I love you if you're my reader. because like that. But like, and I get people who come up to me and do that, but like, because I'm known to different degrees in different regions. But like, it's really hard to compete against people who do, for a lot of independent comic creators, especially if they're doing like new to a region, or if they're selling it, they can't compete against a lot of the fan art stuff, just because, again, people only want to buy what's familiar. And the challenge of being an original writer and artist is making people familiar with your work. And so they want to pay you for it. And so this is not a slam against fan artists. This is not a criticism of fan artists, because frankly, most of art history is fan art if you really break it down, the Bible. Like, it happens to be that, you know, people buy what people want.
Even a lot of fan artists, like, I know, like, that's, like, sometimes that you use the fan art to lure people in to get your original art, but you got to catch their attention somehow, so...
But yeah, I mean, the challenge is as an artist is that, so what is though, so when you're in an environment which is exclusively people creating original works, exclusively people doing new original things, besides the fact that it makes it easier for sales, it's actually really a wonderful experience, because what happens is that conventions, obviously, when they have an artist alley, are trying to let everybody compete for the space, and as they should. But it means that you only get exposed to maybe a couple of original creators who are in that alley. Because again, you know, if you've got 10 tables and you've given 2 to original creators and you want 3 or 4 different fan arts, because your attendees want that variety anyways. Like, you know, you've got as a convention. This means that it's exclusively original work. And so it's a great way to, if you're ever in Indianapolis, and I know that the fall show is, I think, November 15th. Like they're doing that. It's a week before Daishocon, but if you're going to Daishocon, you're probably not going to the Independent Show because they're very far away, unless you're me. I will probably be at both. If you're in Indiana, or if you're just nearby, this is a great experience to just go and learn about all these original things that are happening, because the problem with, I mean, like, webcomics are great and they've got a low barrier to entry, but the problem is finding original quality stuff in the mix of the vast sea of stuff. And the people who are going to go to a show are people who have put out enough product, who have done enough work to have like a product to sell you, like a book.
Right.
And so that means that these are the people who have had enough practice, who have had the determination and the wherewithal, and you don't have to worry about them crapping out after 30 pages. So you're guaranteed to be in a room of 30 people who are all dedicated to what they're doing. So they've created something comprehensive, but you won't have seen most of it before in your life. And because of that, it gives you an opportunity to discover new stories that you would have never seen. Even if you just go to pick up cards and find webcomics. Although I'm a big fan of buying stuff. Like, I always make sure that whenever I go to a show like this, I buy a book from somebody. Like I picked up Brie Larson's stuff.
I have the weirdest problem with, like, there are webcomics that I enjoy, but my problem is, like, I need to keep up with them because I just prefer having a physical copy of the book. Yeah. Like, I love Order of the Stick, but I actually have trouble reading it on the website proper. I prefer having the paperbacks. But
yeah, the other nice thing about the show is, frankly, is that it's like, one of the things that every artist has on their table is a placard which tells you what their strengths and weaknesses are.
Okay.
Well, not weaknesses, just their strengths. So, but like topics that they're experts on. Like mine was
about... So Clark Kent doesn't have kryptonite on it.
Right.
Gotcha.
So mine was, I think, scripting and website management. Like, you know, like that stuff, because webcomics. There are other people who had like digital art, or there are people who were, you know, inking, lettering, things like that. But because of that, if you're an aspiring creative yourself, you can talk to these people who have been working on their own stuff too, and learn how they do things. It's one of the features of the Independent shows. They had the creator, the demo table, in which different creators signed up for slots where they would explain and do things for you to show you how they created. And so it's a great way to learn how to do anything. And so I'm a huge proponent of this convention, of this show, and so if you are in Indiana or anywhere like close enough to drive to Indianapolis for a Sunday, because he usually holds it on a Sunday, usually one in April, one in November. If you have the time, go, because it's a unique experience that is really unlike any other convention I've ever gone to, and it is literally. Right now, even though I live in Indiana, the independent shows are right now the only conventions in Indiana I'm willing to do.
Okay. Sounds all right. Well, sounds pretty cool. I'm very far away from me, but I would not mind checking it out sometime. But I'm gonna be at another show
because I'm sure they'd love to have Nerd and Tie, Nick.
Oh yeah.
But speaking of Nerd and Tie at conventions.
Oh wow. We will gather again, all three of us.
I'm so segueing, I may as well be gyroscopically balanced.
And hopefully none of us will need the puke bucket. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gross. Anyway.
Oh, poor Pher.
Coming up this weekend in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, all three of us are going to be at No Brand Con.
Assuming Pher doesn't die.
Assuming Pher doesn't die. He won't die. He's not allowed to.
Oh, God. If he dies, we're going to feel awful.
He's not allowed to die. Not until
No, I mean like 80 years from now, he's going to be dead, and we're going to be like, oh, man, we talked about Pher dying.
Oh. Anyway, we are all three going to be there. And I know for certain... aside from giving the con tons of content, I know Trae and I are going to be really easy to find that weekend.
Because I'm gonna be in the Artist Alley.
I'm also going to be in the Artist Alley.
Are you in Artist Alley A or Artist Alley B?
I don't know.
What's your table number?
I actually don't know that either.
Because they sent out the table numbers.
Really? I'm gonna have to bug someone because I didn't get that yet. Because I've got...
Did they mail Raina?
Yeah, but she didn't get it yet either.
Oh.
So...
Well, did she request a table number?
I don't know.
Because if she didn't... they might have only sent it to people who specifically requested numbers.
Well, maybe... we'll probably poke around. I know that I'm going to be in the Artist Alley, hilariously, at her booth. But it gets hilarious... because initially she wasn't going to be in the Artist Alley, so she is actually running she's going to be in charge of one of the vendor booths. So, because that's one of her other jobs is working for Angry Fox LLC. So she's going to be working in there, and I'm going to be watching her table. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to be in the Artist Alley with the big sign that says Trade Orn.
I'll be at the booth marked Ineffective Carnivore. We have a very large wireframe display.
Now, because there are two halves of the Artist Alley, these may be nowhere near each other.
We don't know.
Because I know I'm in Artist Alley B. And I'm going to be right outside main programming.
I'm not sure where I am, but you'll find me.
I'm going to be right outside main programming, sitting next to Bal Flanagan and Gen Proc. In the ultimate block of former No Brand Con staffers, the Artist Alley.
I don't know where precisely I'll be, but I'll be at that booth. Big wireframe, Ineffective Carnivore. If you need help finding me, at least one of those days, I'll be dressed as Waka from Gekon Shoujo Nozaki-kun, and maybe I'll do some other cosplay that weekend. Who knows?
Now, if you're looking to find all three of us in one place at one time, and you love Nerd and Tie, we are doing Nerd and Tie live on Friday night. So less than a week from now, we're doing it Friday night at 10:30 p.m. Central in the No Mercy room. It is an 18+ panel room. It is an 18+ panel, even though we're going to broadcast everything said in it, because we are probably going to have Pher very drunk by the time he enters the room.
Yeah. That is actually immediately...
We could have him throwing up during a second episode in a row.
And this is the second year in a row that it's immediately after the Evangelion panel that Raina and I do.
So and also it's immediately before the annual showing of Hanzo the Razor, Sword of Justice, that I host. So you could go, and your panel's at 9, I believe.
Yes.
So at 9 p.m. to 2 a.m., you could spend with Nerd and Ty.
Yeah.
And have an inescapable experience.
Doesn't that sound awesome?
It does. And this, now, we talked about our fortnightly schedule, and this will be a regular episode of Nerd and Ty. This, even though it's only going to be technically less than a week, although we'll probably release it Sunday night, this will be a regular episode of Nerd and Ty. And the reason you ask is because what would normally be our next episode is
it's after a little movie
called Avengers Age of Ultron, so we're going to do our Avengers special the weekend after that.
It's not like we've been known to go on. I mean, it's just a little independent thing. Like, it's going to be a movie that'll probably take up a whole podcast, except it will. It's going to be the whole thing.
It's going to be a whole episode.
And there's no way it won't be.
And so we're going to do our Avengers Age of Ultron special the weekend after that, and then we have to decide whether or not we're going to skew the schedule or not following that. We'll make up our minds long before we get there. But
flying by the seat of our pants.
But because we're only going to have a week's worth of news going into this episode, this is also going to be a very heavy listener and viewer feedback episode. So if you feel like if you've got letters you want to be written, if you've got letters you want to tell us, please make sure you do. If you are in person, we will take your questions live, and we should have a microphone available for you. So unlike previous times we've taken feedback from the audience, the listeners will be able to hear you without me having to repeat their questions, because Pher's just starts answering right away, and people at home have no idea what the heck's going on. Because Pher's a jackass and doesn't think about the fact that the listener at home can't hear what that person in the fifth row in the audience just shouted.
Yeah, it's not all about your opinion, Pher, but seriously, get well soon.
Yes.
But the thing is, that's not even all that we're doing.
No, you and Pher are doing quite a bit.
Yeah, we're going to be all over the place. Friday will also feature Whose Line Is It Anime? So I'm going to be really busy that night, which is just like Whose Line Is It Anyway, but much nerdier. We've been going strong. It's going to be another really good episode of that. Looking forward to that. Then on Saturday, Otaku Tonight is doing a couple 18-plus panels. We've got at 10, we're going to be showing the 1973 Grindhouse movie Trained to Kill USA, which is also known in some markets as the No Mercy Man.
Really?
Yeah. Featuring, it's pretty, yeah, I know. Isn't it perfect? The No Mercy Man in the No Mercy room.
I named the No Mercy room back when I was a staffer, so I had no idea this existed when I came up with the name.
It's a pretty awful movie. More Dumbo than Rambo. Very, very exciting. So join Pher, Brandon, and myself as we make fun of that. That will be followed by So You're Trapped in an Ava Unit and Other Worst Case Scenarios, which follows Pher, myself, and a couple of our other writers as we look at what happens or what you can do to survive everyday situations when you're trapped in an anime. So that one's pretty good. Also 18 plus. At 9 that night, there is going to be we're going to be doing our talk show, the Otaku Tonight with Professor Pher. Guests will include voice actor Kyle Haybear, VersionWorks cosplay, and it's our season 4 finale. And even before that, if you still haven't gotten enough of our crew, we're doing the halftime show for the cosplay contest. Yay! So that'll be fun. And last but certainly not least, I know this schedule is huge. If for some reason you're awake at 9 a.m. on Sunday, if for some reason you're awake at 9 a.m. on Sunday, you should swing by Match Game. we're doing a nerdy version of the classic game show Match Game. It's one of the funniest panels we've ever done. I make no promises based on how groggy and or hungover anyone's going to be at it. But Hobisky, come on down. Please come. So that's my plan for No Brand Con. Not to mention I'll be selling art, so come buy art from me.
And buy art from me. Buy comics from me.
But buy comics from Trae.
Lovely, lovely comics.
They're really funny.
They'll make you feel special in your special area. Don't tell your mom I said that. It's our little secret.
I need an adult.
Oh, dear God.
Oh, God.
Oh, God. Does that mean mailbag?
Yeah, I think it does. I don't think we have anything else. I think we need to open up the mailbag because we've got some stuff.
I think we need to open up the mailbag. Nick, I think you've got the first letter.
Yep, I do. From our returning emailer, we've got one from Brenda Gibner. And she says, her subject is so excited. And she says, hello. So just watched the new trailer for Star Wars 7, and boy, am I excited.
Woohoo.
Are you guys looking forward to the movie? And if so, what do you hope will happen in the movie? Also, you guys forgot to mention a gaming con last week. There was FearCon in...
Fear the Con.
Or Fear the Con, excuse me, in MO.
Missouri.
Sure. Okay, in Missouri. My husband and his friends have been there, and they said it was great. Plus, they're Kickstarted or funded, so it's happening this year.
I think we didn't mention it only because while it's true, I'm a guest of honor at OzCon in West Plains, Missouri this year. That's not local for any of us. So when because we didn't know where you were from. You know, it's when you ask us where the local cons are, we're like, where's the local? Well,
and it goes kind of with that question too, of that it is hard to keep up with all of these smaller cons.
Yeah, and
absolutely. I'm glad Fear the Con was good. I hope it was awesome. It sounds like it.
Yeah, no,
that little bit sounded like it was fun.
I'm happy for every independent con, every little con, everything bopping up, bubbling up, popping around. It's so So apparently, if you're in Missouri, Fear the Con is a great little local con that you can go to, and you should because I said so on the internet right now.
So yeah, best of luck to them, and maybe we can find out more about them in the years to come.
Yeah.
As for Star Wars, I was
just going to say that if anybody actually does run a con and they want us to like plug that it exists, I mean, just like to mention the dates or things like that, we're more than happy to always mention that. We're always happy to draw attention to conventions. So if you run a convention and you just want us to say, hey, I run a convention, go to nerdandtie.com, go to the contact form. In the subject, make sure that you write, I run a convention. Or, I want to talk about a convention if you don't actually work there. And then tell us about it in the message, and we will be sure to plug you and tell people where you are. And if we've never been there, we won't express an opinion one way or the other, only because, again, we won't have been there. If we've ever been to your con, we will tell people how awesome it is. Or not. I don't know. Maybe you ran maybe you ran KokoiCon back in 2008, and maybe you should be ashamed of yourself. No, maybe you were one of the people in charge of DashCon. No, creators of DashCon never write to us. As for episode 7, Nick?
Yeah, I've gone from kind of cautiously optimistic to, I'll admit, I turned into a little kid again watching that trailer. I really like the designs. I like the bad guy uniforms. Not really much indication of what the story is going to be, but it does look really fun.
Yeah, there's subtle hints of the story. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm excited. Mm-hmm. Like, don't confuse my excitement with my expectation, because I'm excited about it because they managed to rattle all the little childhood stuff in my brain and my elbows, and. So I'm there. I'm there with Han and Chewie walking onto the Millennium Falcon bridge going, we're home. I'm a big fan of that. I'm a huge fan of that. As for whether or not the movie's going to be any good, I'm holding reservations because honestly, I got excited about The Phantom Menace. I got excited about The Phantom Menace, and I've been burned. And by God, I'm not going to hold my breath.
Yeah, I have a fiance who is already giving me guff about my excitement. Just with you're gonna get so burned again. This is you returning to the people who have abused you, and it's gonna happen all over again.
Yeah, it's so I'm just going with cautious optimism. And we're gonna see.
I still can't believe that little ball droid is an actual practical.
Oh my God! That's practical.
Ridiculous. That's cool.
Like my brain's running through about 3 different ways they could have built it, but I'm like, that's so only because it would have been so easy to do with CGI, and that's what actually gives me a lot of I have faith that visually this is going to actually look good. Where the prequels, I don't feel like the prequels ever looked good. I don't feel like the prequels felt like a movie. They felt like a video game.
One of my biggest issues with when I left episode 2 and it carried episode 3 was how fake the clones looked. Every scene the clones were in, they looked fake. The clone troopers actually look better in the Star Wars Clone Wars made-for-TV cartoon than they do in any part of episodes 2 and 3. And when I saw the stormtroopers for this new movie wearing real armor, being actual guys in costume, that for me was a huge boon for this movie. I'm like, wow. Having guys in costume, it matters. Holy crap, does it matter?
Yeah, so
looks so much better.
Yeah, so I'm excited about the film because it's going to look like a Star Wars film for the first time since the original trilogy.
That'll be well.
As for whether or not it'll be any good is up in the air. J.J. Abrams has got a pretty solid track record. For the most part, there's nothing, but the problem is he made Into Darkness.
Right.
But on the other hand, a lot of the problems with Into Darkness weren't necessarily his fault because he trusts all the continuity stuff he was trusting the continuity stuff all to Orci and Kurtzman because J.J. Abrams is the first to admit he knows nothing about Star Trek.
Right.
And he's a Star Wars fan down through and through, but he was smart enough to hire 2 Star Trek fans to write the movie. But they made a good Star Trek movie with 2009 on accident. Like, if you listen to them, listen to the commentary, they made that good movie on accident. Into Darkness was not good, and we're all glad Orci's out. And Simon Pegg's writing it now. And Justin Lin's directing, I believe. But the whole thing with Star Wars, he is a big Star Wars fan. Now, the real question is, are we going to get Heir to the Empire, or are we going to get Truce at Bakura?
I want an entertaining story. I'm happy that the old actors are involved, but I don't want too much of them because I'm going to get really depressed if all of every time it's Han Solo, it's old, really has lost everything Han Solo, and it just makes me sad because it's like,
I'm okay with Han Solo, as much Han Solo as possible. He actually looked like he enjoyed being there in the clip we've seen of him, which is more than we can say for Crystal Skull, and I liked Crystal Skull.
My heart did skip a beat with Chewie were home. I'm not gonna lie, seeing that made me really happy. But...
So I think it's got a really good shot. I think it's got a much better shot of being a good movie than the original prequels did. Yeah. Well, so
I think there's more. I hate to say it, there's more craps being given.
Yeah, and as Random Ramblings Man points out in the chat room, they did bring back the screenwriter for Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, thank God!
One of the guys from Empire. So.
Oh dear. Well, okay. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. So. Hooray! So it's cautious optimism. I think is the rule of the game, but we're still also excited. Just because we're excited doesn't mean we expect it to actually be good.
Yeah, because we don't know. We haven't met the new characters yet. We don't know if they're going to be even. We don't. All we know is that the bad guys have cool outfits, and we kind of know what the main characters look like. That's it.
Well, we know a bit more than that. But I don't want to go into spoilers.
Yeah,
because
I'll admit,
J.J. Abrams has confirmed that some of the some of the stuff floating out there is true. And we think we know, and some of the the more reasonable stuff That makes
Anakin's
sense.
lightsaber is even in the trailer.
Yeah,
that is
right. They've been confirming more and more of it. So
literally Anakin's lightsaber.
And we know for a fact that the black guy who angered the internet, whose name I can't remember, but I remember the racist outrage. We know that he is a stormtrooper.
Okay.
Because
sense.
he confirmed it at the Star Wars convention this last weekend. So, we know a few other things, and there are theories about some of the other characters, but we do know like the names of some of them, and the fact that that
weird lightsaber handle guy isn't a Darth. That took me back. I was a little surprised by that.
Yeah, that. So, anyways, John Boyega. Thank you, Random Rumbles, man. Yeah, it's because I try to avoid reading too much about the Star Wars stuff. I'm going to admit, because I want to be surprised when I go see it, and so
Same.
I haven't been remembering actor names. I just remember racist assholes. All right, so I think that sums up our thoughts. Yeah, I think that sums up our thoughts about episode 7.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to our next letter, which comes from a regular writer Corfan. He writes, subject Other Space. I keep seeing news items for some online sci-fi series called Other Space. The latest one got me looking into it a little, and it sounds like a comedic remake of the anime They Were 11. Has anyone seen both of them and are able to give a comparison? I've actually watched most of Other Space. I haven't seen a few of the last couple episodes yet, but this weekend my wife and I sat down and watched a lot of Other Space. Other Space is
not watched it at all.
Other Space is created by Paul Feig. You may know him as the guy that Sony's screwing over with his Ghostbusters reboot.
Right.
But it also heavily involves Joel Hodgman and Trace Below from MST3K, to the point where Trace Below is playing a robot, is voicing and puppeteering a robot named Art. Now, if you're an MST3K fan, you know the Crow reference in that. Just look at the MST3K wiki and search Crow's page and look in the page for Art, and you'll understand why it's a direct reference. The robot's name is a reference to Crow, and he has the exact same personality as Crow. I wouldn't describe the show as They Were 11. They Were 11, for those who don't know, is about a bunch of people who are a derelict ship training cadets on their final mission, if I remember correctly, and then it turns out that like there's supposed to be 10 of them, and there's an 11th, and so one of them's like, but that is similar to the plot of the second episode.
I've never watched either, so I can't weigh in.
You know that
I've been meaning to watch They Were
of
11 for a while.
You know that episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation where they all wake up not having their memories, and then there's that extra crew member?
Right. I do remember that one. Okay. Sounded.
Or you remember that episode of Stargate SG-1 where they go through the gate and then there's like this other member on SG-1 team and like they act like he's been. Or you remember that episode of Torchwood where there's just that extra. They Were 11 is probably one of the older examples of that out of modern stuff, because it's, I think the manga was first written, I think, in either the 60s or 70s, but probably, actually, the story's been along longer than that. It's just that They Were 11 predates all my examples there. Other Space is much more like an American Red Dwarf. The premise of the show is that this the ship, the main characters are the new crew of a spaceship that is going off to explore the universe. That humanity in the future has been exploring the universe and finding nothing but rocks, and it's all very boring. But they end up getting pulled through a rift to another universe or other space and getting stranded there. So it feels more like Lost in Space, Voyager, that kind of a thing, only with it's very funny. I mean, it's Joel Hodgman plays the very irradiated chief engineer and has a sidekick robot that is pretty much Crow. I mean,
yeah, this sounds like something I need to watch.
Like it's on Yahoo Screen, so it's free to view for everybody. All 8 episodes are up. They put them up all together, and again, it's Paul Feig, Joel Hodgman, and Hodgson, Joel Hodgson.
I think it's Hodgson. Okay.
It is Hodgson.
It's in Hodgson.
I've been at a convention all day. I've been up since 6 a.m. It's been a long day.
I've just been reviewing footage from Dragon Ball Evolution. So.
Joel Hodgson. Actually, the funny thing is I kept meaning to do a write-up about Other Space on nerdandtie.com, and I just kept forgetting, and then I didn't. So we're talking about it, here. So yeah, no, it's Other Space is actually pretty good.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's definitely worth watching. So that moves us on to our final segment of the episode.
What? I just wanted what dramatically.
Oh, okay. And that is the Vomit Hat Steve Challenge. For those of you who don't know what the Vomit Hat Steve Challenge is that every episode I read a portion of the book on the podcast. The challenge to you is to name the book that I'm reading from. If you guessed correctly, you get included in the Hall of Awesome. The benefits to being in the Hall of Awesome are as follows. You get your name written down on our website, and we read it aloud every episode. And that's it. That's all you get.
That's
There's no prize. The current members of the Hall of Awesome are Archimide Zero, Rena Innocenti, Cheesy McDamu, Krista, Slithery D, Shameless Otaku, The Random Ramblings Man, Core Fan, Capito, Chris Graham, and a new person. For weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and months, I'd been reading segments of the same book, and
the same book.
Lots of people had been guessing lots of stuff. One of the other people guessed something very wrong this week, but I'm not going to embarrass them because one person guessed what it is, and that is Lily Saurus. Lily Saurus guessed right, and that was I had been reading segments of A Memory of Light by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. So she gets put in the Hall of Awesome. She's actually already up on the website if you go up and load it now, if you're on the live chat. Although don't, because then you'll leave the live chat room. And
why would you do that?
Stop watching the show. And why would you want that? So just trust me, it's already there. Check it after the show. But that means since somebody guessed the book, I need
Trey's
to
gonna
go
have to find a
new one. So I have. It's an actual book, so I've got to hold it down here under the camera.
I can't see it.
So I'm going to find a good line here. So this is your line of the book. One variation of the multiverse idea is actually testable today. If you know what book that's from, go to nerdandtie.com and click on the contact form. Tell us the name of the book and the author, and what name you'd like to be referred to in the Hall of Awesome. If you don't, come to the page anyways and write to us about anything at all going through your head. What are your thoughts? What are your likes? What are your dislikes? Where do you think Pher is right now? What is he doing? What kind of hat is he wearing? Is he drinking a drink with a little umbrella out of it? Is there an olive shaped like a hamster somehow carved and placed in the drink? And then who went to school to learn how to carve olives into hamsters? Tell us. We want to know, because I want to get some of those olive-shaped, like some hamster-shaped olives. That sounds amazingly terrible, and I need to see it with my own eyes.
Hamsters or hamster-shaped olives, or...
So, for an episode without Pher, we've actually managed to run pretty long.
A little bit.
And Pher's is in the chat room. Stirs is in the chat room. He's saying, I live, Pher lives, live. I'm just throwing up a bunch.
Pher is alive! God, I wish Brian Blessed was here.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. So, since Pher has finally shown up to the chat room, that means it's time to end the show. Don't you think?
I would agree.
So, I am, of course, Trae Dorn.
I'm Nick Izumi.
And we have been Nerd and Tie. Now, remember, you can always subscribe to Nerd and Tie via iTunes or through Stitcher. And go to nerdandtie.com. Also, subscribe to the RSS feed. It'll be fun. If you subscribe to Stitcher or iTunes, please rate and review us. Let us know what you think about the show. We want to hear it. The world needs to hear it. The universe needs to hear your thoughts, actions, and souls. Because, frankly, it's that important. And again, even though I just said my name was Trae Dorn a few minutes ago, I'm going to say it again. I'm Trae Dorn.
And I'm still Nick Izumi.
And it's amazing.
Keep on spocking in the free world.
Or don't. It's your choice. It's your
Do
body.
you bleed? You will.
God, this is why we need Pher on the show.